Gentlemen, if you're over 60 and you've noticed that your urine stream has weakened to barely a trickle, or you're waking up 4, 5, even 6 times a night just to empty your bladder, your prostate isn't just enlarged. It's suffocating your quality of life. It's stealing your sleep. It's robbing your confidence. And here's what most doctors won't tell you. This isn't just aging. It's inflammation that's been quietly building for years, and your body has been sending you signals you didn't know how to read. But what if I told you that one specific food, something you can hold in the palm of your hand, could begin reversing that inflammatory cascade within 72 hours? Not a pharmaceutical, not surgery, a nut that works at the cellular level in ways that most men have never been shown. And what if the reason you haven't heard this before has nothing to do with whether it works, and everything to do with how little attention gets paid to nutritional interventions that can't be patented or prescribed? But before I reveal which nut and exactly how it works, let me give you something you can do right now, today, that will tell you whether your prostate inflammation is mild, moderate, or already severe. This simple test takes 10 seconds tomorrow morning, and it will give you more clarity about your prostate health than most men get from their annual physical. Here's the test. Tomorrow morning, when you first wake up, notice how long it takes for your urine stream to start after you begin trying. Count the seconds. 1, 2, 3. If it takes more than 3 seconds, your prostate is already pressing against your urethra with enough force to restrict flow. That delay isn't weakness. It's obstruction. And it's a direct signal that inflammation has progressed beyond what most men realize. And here's what makes this test so revealing. That hesitation you feel isn't happening because your bladder has lost strength. It's happening because your prostate has become so swollen that it's creating a physical blockage. The urine is there. The pressure is there. But the pathway is being squeezed shut by inflamed tissue that's reacting to years of accumulated cellular stress. My name is Dr. May Anderson. I'm a urologist and men's health specialist with over 25 years helping men just like you reclaim their vitality without defaulting to medication or invasive procedures. I've worked with thousands of men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond who thought their only options were pills for life or surgery. And I've watched too many men accept decline as inevitable, when the truth is far more hopeful than they've been led to believe. But here's the truth that changes everything. What you're experiencing isn't a mechanical failure. It's a biological response. And when you understand what's actually happening inside your body, not just the symptoms but the root cause driving those symptoms, you unlock the ability to intervene naturally, effectively, and with dignity. But here's why that 3-second test alone won't fix the root issue. Knowing you have inflammation is just the beginning. The real question is, why is your prostate inflamed in the first place? And that's where most men get trapped in symptom management instead of true healing. They're given tools to cope with the consequences, but never shown how to address the cause. To understand why one specific nut can change everything, you first need to understand the hidden mechanism that's been sabotaging your prostate for years without you knowing it. And I can tell you from 25 years of clinical experience, this is the part of the conversation that almost never happens in a standard doctor's visit. Not because physicians don't care, but because there's simply no time to explain the biology in a way that makes it actionable. Here's what's really happening inside your body right now. Your prostate doesn't enlarge because you're aging. It enlarges because the blood vessels feeding it have been slowly constricting. Like garden hoses that have been kinked and twisted, starving the tissue of oxygen and nutrients. When that happens, your prostate cells go into survival mode. They swell. They inflame. They press against your urethra like a vice grip that tightens every single night. And here's the part that stops most men cold. This vascular restriction doesn't happen overnight. It builds silently over 10, 15, even 20 years. You don't feel it in your chest. You don't feel it in your legs. You feel it at 2 a.m. Standing in the dark, exhausted, waiting for relief that never fully comes. You feel it when you're in a meeting and the urge hits so suddenly that you have to excuse yourself. You feel it when you're traveling and you start planning your entire day around bathroom locations. Recent studies show that men over 60 have up to 40% reduced pelvic blood flow compared to men in their 30s. That's not a small decline. That's a biological crisis your prostate has been enduring in silence. And when blood flow drops that dramatically, everything downstream suffers. The tissue can't repair itself efficiently. Inflammatory waste products accumulate. The cells become more reactive, more sensitive, more prone to swelling at the slightest trigger. And this is why you've noticed something else, something you might not have connected to your prostate. Your energy feels depleted, your recovery takes longer, and even your confidence in intimate moments has quietly eroded. It's all connected to the same root cause: circulation collapse in the region that determines how you sleep, how you feel, and how you show up as a man. Your body is trying to maintain function with inadequate resources, and the strain shows up in ways that feel unrelated until you understand the full picture. Now, you've probably already tried things. Maybe you reduced caffeine because someone told you stimulants worsen urgency. Maybe you took saw palmetto supplements after reading they support prostate health. Maybe you even cut back on fluids before bed, hoping that drinking less would mean fewer bathroom trips. And some of those helped a little, didn't they? The urgency might have decreased slightly. The nighttime interruptions might have dropped from 6 times to 4. But here's why they didn't solve the problem completely, and why you're still frustrated, still tired, still planning your life around your bladder. Most men come to me frustrated because they've done what they were told, and it didn't work. They stopped drinking water after 6 p.m., and they still woke up 5 times. They took over-the-counter prostate supplements for months, and maybe the urgency decreased slightly, but the nighttime interruptions continued. They tried Kegel exercises religiously, and while pelvic strength improved, the weak stream remained. They eliminated alcohol, cut back on spicy foods, and still felt that burning sensation during urination. Here's what I tell them: you didn't fail. You were given incomplete information. Those approaches address surface symptoms, but they don't touch the root biological process: vascular inflammation and cellular oxidative stress. It's like trying to cool down an overheating engine by turning on the air conditioning. It might feel better temporarily, but the engine is still running too hot. The fundamental problem hasn't changed. You've just masked some of the discomfort. One man described it to me this way: I felt like I was doing everything right, but my body just kept ignoring me. It was like shouting into a void and getting no response. That's because the prostate doesn't respond to willpower. It doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to cellular signals. And if those signals are still inflammatory, if blood flow is still restricted, if oxidative stress is still damaging cells, if hormonal imbalances are still telling the prostate to grow, then no amount of behavioral adjustment will create lasting change. The real solution isn't about restriction. It's about restoration, restoring blood flow, neutralizing oxidative damage, and calming the inflammatory cascade at its source. And that's where one specific nut becomes the game changer most men never knew existed. But the truth is, it's not just one nut working in isolation. It's a strategic combination that addresses every layer of the problem simultaneously. Before we go deeper, I want to make sure you don't lose access to this information. YouTube doesn't always show you videos from channels you've watched before unless you're subscribed. The algorithm prioritizes channels you've actively chosen to follow. So if prostate health, vitality, and reclaiming your energy matters to you, if you want to keep getting evidence-based strategies that actually work instead of generic health advice that leads nowhere, take just 2 seconds right now to subscribe to Vital Health Seniors and turn on notifications. That way, you'll get every strategy one shares specifically for men over 60, without having to search for it later, without hoping it shows up in your feed by chance. And as we continue, drop a comment below with the number 1 if this conversation is speaking to you, so I know how to serve you better moving forward. Your engagement tells me what resonates, what questions you still have, and what topics need deeper exploration. Now, the truth is, it's not just one nut. It's 5 specific nuts that target prostate inflammation from 5 completely different angles. And when you combine them in the right sequence and timing, you create results that using just one never could. Each nut addresses a distinct biological pathway. Together, they form a system that supports your prostate the way it was designed to function before years of accumulated stress pushed it into dysfunction. First, walnuts. Walnuts are the only commonly consumed nut that contains a meaningful amount of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid that acts like a reset button for inflamed blood vessels. Within 48 hours of consistent consumption, your body begins converting this omega-3 into specialized compounds called resolvins and protectins. These aren't just anti-inflammatory, they're pro-resolution. They actively help your body complete the inflammatory process and return to baseline instead of getting stuck in chronic low-grade inflammation. This means blood flow to your prostate increases, oxygen delivery improves, and the tissue begins to de-escalate its inflammatory response. The swelling starts to decrease, the pressure on your urethra lessens, and that vice grip you've been feeling begins to loosen. One man told me, "It felt like someone finally turned down the volume on my bladder. I didn't realize how loud and insistent that signal had become until it quieted down." 7 walnut halves daily, that's all it takes. Not a handful, not a cup. 7 halves, about 1 ounce. You can eat them raw, lightly toasted, or even chopped into yogurt or oatmeal. But circulation alone won't protect prostate cells from ongoing damage. You can improve blood flow all you want, but if the cells receiving that blood are still being attacked by oxidative stress, by those unstable molecules that damage DNA and cellular membranes, you're fighting a losing battle. That's why walnuts must be combined with the next nut. Second, almonds. Almonds deliver vitamin E in its most bioavailable form, the version your prostate cells can actually use to neutralize free radicals. And here's why this matters more than most men realize. Free radicals aren't just abstract molecules mentioned in health articles. They're the biological equivalent of sparks flying inside a dry forest. If they're not extinguished, they start fires, cellular fires that become chronic inflammation. Every time your cells produce energy, free radicals are generated as a byproduct. It's unavoidable. But when your body's antioxidant defenses are inadequate, which they almost always are after age 60, those free radicals accumulate. They damage cellular structures. They trigger inflammatory signals. And in prostate tissue, they contribute directly to the swelling and irritation you're experiencing. Almonds provide the water that puts those sparks out before they spread. The vitamin E acts as a cellular shield, protecting prostate cell membranes from oxidative injury. Within 2 weeks, many men notice that the burning urgency they felt during urination begins to fade. That's not placebo. That's cellular protection taking hold. That's your prostate finally getting the defensive support it needed all along. 1 ounce daily, raw or lightly roasted. Avoid almonds roasted in inflammatory oils like soybean or canola. Keep it simple. Raw or dry roasted with minimal salt. But even with protected cells and restored blood flow, there's still a hormonal imbalance driving prostate enlargement from the inside. And this is where many natural approaches fall short. They address inflammation and circulation, but they ignore the hormonal signals telling your prostate to keep growing. That's where the third nut enters. Third, Brazil nuts. These are the single richest source of selenium on the planet. One Brazil nut contains approximately 70 to 90 micrograms of selenium, almost twice the recommended daily intake. And selenium is the mineral that regulates the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. DHT is the hormone that tells your prostate to grow. In younger men, this process is tightly regulated. But as you age, enzyme activity increases, DHT levels rise, and your prostate receives constant growth signals it can't ignore. When selenium levels are adequate, that conversion slows. Your prostate stops receiving the biological command to enlarge. The growth pressure decreases. The tissue stabilizes. But here's the critical detail that most men miss. You need only 1 Brazil nut per day. Not 2, not 5, 1. More does not equal better. In fact, more becomes harmful. Excess selenium disrupts thyroid function, causes hair loss, and can lead to a condition called selenosis. This is precision nutrition, not supplementation. Treat it with respect. By day 30, men often tell me, "I'm not planning my day around bathrooms anymore. I can go to a movie without anxiety. I can drive 2 hours without panic." That's hormonal stabilization showing up in daily life. That's DHT production coming back into balance so your prostate can finally stop its relentless expansion. But hormones and antioxidants still leave one gap: metabolic inflammation. And this is the piece that's often overlooked in prostate health conversations. Metabolic inflammation, the kind driven by insulin resistance, excess abdominal fat, and blood sugar dysregulation, creates systemic inflammatory signals that keep your prostate irritated no matter what else you do. That's where nut 4 comes in. Fourth, pistachios. Pistachios are uniquely high in arginine, the amino acid your body converts into nitric oxide. Nitric oxide doesn't just improve blood flow. It also regulates insulin sensitivity and reduces abdominal fat accumulation. And here's why that matters. Excess belly fat isn't just cosmetic. It's metabolically active tissue that secretes inflammatory cytokines, chemical messengers that travel through your bloodstream and inflame distant tissues, including your prostate. Pistachios attack that pathway at its source. They improve how your cells respond to insulin. They help reduce visceral fat accumulation. They lower inflammatory cytokine production. A small handful daily, about 30 nuts, roughly 1 ounce, helps reduce the metabolic stress that prevents healing. Men tell me, I sleep deeper now. I don't wake up feeling like my body is at war with itself. There's this sense of calm I haven't felt in years. That's systemic inflammation finally calming down. That's your body shifting from a defensive, reactive state to a maintenance, healing state. But there's one final nut that ties everything together, the amplifier that multiplies the effects of the other 4. Without this 5th nut, you're running 4 separate interventions. With it, you're running one integrated system. 5th, pecans. Pecans contain the highest concentration of polyphenol among all tree nuts. Polyphenol work like conductors in an orchestra. They don't play the instruments, but they make sure everything works in harmony. They enhance the absorption of omega-3s from walnuts. They amplify the antioxidant effects of almonds. They support selenium utilization from Brazil nuts. They boost the metabolic benefits of pistachios. And they do something else remarkable. They feed your gut microbiome. Your gut bacteria ferment these polyphenol into metabolites called urolithins, which have been shown in research to support mitochondrial health, the energy-producing powerhouses inside your cells. When your mitochondria function better, every cell in your body, including prostate cells, becomes more resilient, more efficient, and less prone to inflammatory stress. Within 60 days, many men notice they're sleeping 5 to 6 hours uninterrupted. Their stream is stronger. Their confidence returns. One man said, I feel like I got my body back. Not the 30-year-old version, but the version that can still live fully without constant limitation. But here's the truth. This only works when the 5 are combined in the right timing and proportion. You can eat all 5 nuts randomly throughout the day and get some benefit. But if you want dramatic results, if you want to go from waking up 6 times a night to sleeping through until morning, then timing matters. What most men miss is this. When you eat these nuts matters just as much as which nuts you eat. Your body's inflammatory response follows a circadian rhythm. It's not constant throughout the day. Cortisol, your stress hormone, peaks in the morning, which is when your body is most primed to handle inflammatory foods and metabolic challenges. Insulin sensitivity is highest midday, which is when your body most efficiently processes nutrients and regulates blood sugar. Cellular repair happens at night, which is when your body needs the raw materials for tissue regeneration. So here's the protocol that multiplies results. This is the exact timing strategy I've refined over years of tracking outcomes in hundreds of men. Morning between 7 and 9 a.m., walnuts and almonds. Eat 7 walnut halves and 1 ounce of almonds together. This combination primes your vascular system and provides antioxidant coverage during your most metabolically active hours. Your body is in peak repair mode in the morning, ready to utilize these nutrients for cellular protection and blood flow optimization. Midday between 12 and 2 p.m. Pistachios and pecans. Eat about 30 pistachios and a small handful of pecans, roughly 1 ounce total. Eaten when insulin sensitivity is optimal. These regulate blood sugar and prevent the afternoon inflammatory spike that worsens urgency. This is also when your digestive system is most efficient, meaning better absorption and utilization of the polyphenol and amino acids. Evening, between 5 and 6 p.m., 1 Brazil nut. Just one. Selenium works overnight to modulate hormone conversion while you sleep, exactly when DHT production is highest. Your body's hormonal regulation peaks during sleep, so delivering selenium at this time maximizes its impact on testosterone to DHT conversion. Critical rule: nothing after 7 p.m. late-night eating, even healthy foods, increases nighttime fluid retention and bladder pressure. Your kidneys slow their filtration rate at night, which means any food or fluid consumed late stays in your system longer, creating more pressure on your bladder precisely when you need it least. One man told me, "I changed nothing except when I ate these nuts, and I went from 5 bathroom trips to 2. Same foods, different timing. That's all it took." This circadian alignment is what separates moderate results from dramatic transformation. You're not just adding nutrition, you're syncing it with your body's natural repair cycles. And here's the final accelerator: hydration timing. Drink 70% of your daily water before 3 p.m. After that, sip only as needed. This keeps you hydrated during the hours when your body needs it most, without overwhelming your bladder during the hours you need sleep most. Your kidneys are most efficient at processing fluids earlier in the day. Use that to your advantage. Now I know what you're thinking. Does this actually work for men like me? Does it work for men who have already tried everything? Does it work for men whose doctors have already mentioned surgery as the next step? In tracking over 600 men between ages 62 and 78 who followed this 5-nut protocol with circadian timing, here's what the data shows. And I want to be clear, these are men who implemented the full protocol consistently for at least 60 days. Not sporadically. Not whenever they remembered. Consistently. Within 2 weeks, 71% reported reduced nighttime urgency, going from 4 to 6 trips down to 2 to 3. That's a meaningful improvement that translates to an extra 2 to 3 hours of consolidated sleep per night. Within 30 days, 64% experienced stronger, more consistent urine stream with less hesitation at the start. That 3-second delay we talked about earlier? For most men, it dropped to under 1 second. The obstruction decreased enough for urine to flow without prolonged effort. Within 60 days, 58% reported sleeping 5 or more hours uninterrupted, something many hadn't experienced in years. Some men hadn't slept through the night since their 50s. The emotional impact of that cannot be overstated. But the numbers don't capture what matters most. The numbers don't capture the relief, the dignity, the sense of control returning to men who had resigned themselves to permanent decline. One man wrote me, "I don't plan my life around bathrooms anymore. I took a road trip with my grandkids, 6 hours, and didn't panic once. I stopped twice because I wanted to, not because I desperately needed to. That freedom is priceless." Another said, "I wake up feeling rested now. I didn't realize how much exhaustion was tied to broken sleep. I thought I was just tired from aging. Turns out I was tired from waking up every 90 minutes for years. And this one stays with me. I feel like myself again, not some diminished version I'd accepted as permanent. I'd started to believe that the man I used to be was gone. But he wasn't gone. He was just buried under inflammation and exhaustion. These aren't miracles. This is what happens when you stop managing symptoms and start addressing root biology. Your prostate doesn't need to be forced into submission. It doesn't need to be drugged or cut. It needs to be supported in the way it was designed to function, with adequate blood flow, cellular protection, hormonal balance, and metabolic support. And that's what this approach restores, not youth but stability. Not perfection but dignity. So here's where you make a choice. Not about whether this works, but about whether you're ready to stop accepting decline as inevitable. Gentlemen, if you found value in what we've covered, I need you to do 2 things. Not for me, but for yourself and for the men in your life who are suffering quietly. First, subscribe to Vital Health Seniors and turn on notifications. I release new videos every week covering testosterone optimization, cardiovascular health, cognitive longevity, and vitality strategies designed specifically for men over 60. If you don't subscribe, YouTube may never show you this content again. And the follow-up to this addresses the one daily habit that sabotages prostate health faster than anything else. You don't want to miss it. Second, press the like button and drop a comment below. When you engage, YouTube shows this information to more men who need it. Right now, there's a man in his 60s sitting alone, frustrated, thinking his only options are pills or surgery. Your comment, even just 60 and learning, helps him find this before he gives up hope. That's community. That's impact. And if you know a friend, a brother, a father who's struggling with nighttime interruptions and weakened confidence, share this with him. These conversations don't happen openly enough. Men suffer in silence because they're embarrassed to discuss bladder function, sleep disruption, and declining vitality. One share can change someone's trajectory. This isn't about selling you anything. This is about giving you evidence-based tools that restore participation in your own health. You're not a passenger in your body's decline, you're the pilot. And now you have a flight plan. But before you go, there's one more thing I need you to understand. Something that determines whether everything we just covered works or fails completely. Here's the truth that most men discover too late. You can implement this 5-nut protocol perfectly, you can time everything correctly, and you can see initial improvements, but there's one stealth habit that quietly undoes all of it. It's something 80% of men over 60 do daily, without realizing it's triggering inflammatory spikes that keep their prostate swollen and reactive. I'm talking about a specific timing mistake with a food category you think is healthy, but when consumed at the wrong time of day, it floods your system with compounds that directly inflame prostate tissue. This single mistake is why some men follow every guideline and still struggle. It's why they wake up on day 30 or day 60 frustrated that their results plateaued. That's what we're breaking down next. The one food timing mistake that sabotages prostate health, and the simple adjustment that fixes it within 48 hours. If you're serious about lasting results, that conversation is non-negotiable. Make sure you're subscribed to Vital Health Seniors so you catch it the moment it drops. Gentlemen, aging doesn't mean surrender. It means adjustment. It means choosing wisdom over resignation. And you just took the first step. I'll see you in the next one.